Welcome everyone to our Wednesday call. In fact, it was so funny thinking about changing the title of these calls. One of the members in Sarah and oh my gosh, Susan, she calls them Wisdom Wednesdays, which I thought was so cool because we are sharing a lot of wisdom. It's not just my wisdom, right? It's wisdom from all of you too when you're sharing as well. So I thought that was kind of a cute thing. So I might change that. So good to see you. So let's get into, oh, Eddie's here again. Yay, Eddie. So let's start talking about teaching. And for those of you who want to teach, sometimes a level 1 is a bit much because it is a minimum of a 10 to 12-hour class. And if you do it online, it's usually 8 hours, 8 weeks, or actually it's more because we do an hour and 15. So it's like 10 hours online. And then, obviously they have homework and you want to have support too. Before I even get into all of this, I talked to Kathleen about why she isn't allowing people to teach online. And she had a really good explanation. And she said why she doesn't let everyone, the reason she doesn't let everyone certify in levels 1, 2, and 3 online to teach is because you have to, in order to be a really good teacher, you have to have the experience of the in-person classes. So even though I think Alice Kay brought this up last week, that so Alice Kay teaches online, she's a wonderful teacher. So she teaches levels 1, 2, and 3. So if you study with Alice Kay and you've only experienced the online version and you become a teacher, like Diane is her teacher student, then you might think, okay, well, it's really natural for me to then want to teach these classes online. And that's completely understandable. But Kathleen was saying her reasoning is that you don't have that in-person experience. And I will say, me for one, if I would have taken all of Kathleen's level 1 classes, 2, 3, whatever, online, I wouldn't be able to answer questions that students have about the animal experiences. Because when you're teaching an in-person class, you get to observe how students are, connecting with animals, how students are dealing with it, how students are maybe not dealing with what students are doing. And you also get just a deeper understanding of how the animals can be teachers. So a lot of the experiences that I have, I would never have been able to share had I not taught in person first. So when we think about teaching online, I know last week Diane was saying that she would love to teach levels 1, 2, and 3 online. The way we can help prepare ourselves if we do want to do online classes is to then think of a smaller topic to teach. So I'm not doing this online. I'm actually doing this in person, but I could do this online. I would probably do Reiki for dogs online more than Reiki for horses. So I have Kathleen's book, Heart to Heart with Horses. And I'm going to show you today how I took this book and created a 6-hour class out of it. So I'm going to be teaching in person at Zeb's Wish in Sandy, Oregon. It's going to be an equine Reiki class. I don't think I'm going to call it Reiki though. I think I'm going to call it, something about meditation with horses. And the reason for that being is I want to reach a wider audience than Reiki will allow me. So when you think about including the word Reiki, think about your audience. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. But my audience is going to be horse people. And most horse people might not even know what Reiki is, or they might have had an experience with it. And they may be like, I don't want to do, or my horse doesn't like hands, or whatever that might be, right? Or I want to work with other horses. Some horses I know don't like hands. They're a little bit more shy. So they might not be open to the class. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to call this a meditating with Reiki. But if I were going to do an online class, which I know, and I wanted to bring this up because I'm talking about Kathleen's, if I want to do an online class, I want to think about a topic that's going to be easy for people to understand. I want to think about a topic that I could teach effectively online. So Reiki with dogs, I feel I could effectively teach online, because if you're teaching online, you can ask people, hey, when you come to class, it'd be great if your dog was with you. Now, you might have some students who don't have animals in the house, and that's okay. But you can say, if you have animals, please allow them to be a part of this class. And then we'll talk a little bit more about how you can use animals in class. But before we even get to that, I just want to do a little side note about, oh, here we've got some people who are waiting. I want to do a little side note about teaching on Zoom, because this is really important. So all of you come to these Zoom sessions on Wednesdays, and it's pretty casual. You can come when you want. You can leave when you want. I'm not a stickler about you being on camera. I don't really care if you're moving around. It doesn't bother me, okay? As a teacher, as a host, I'm not bothered by those things. But again, this is a very casual gathering. Now, if you are teaching a class, you definitely want to have a structure, and you want to set expectations before your students even get to your class. And so your expectations as a teacher are, please have your camera on. Please make sure you're ready to join. Don't be moving around. If you have to move around, if you have, because people have to get up, they have to maybe use the restroom, they want to get a drink of water, they've forgotten a pen, whatever that is, say, please turn off your camera. So it is so easy to turn off your camera. All you got to do is click, boom, you're gone, boom, you're back on, right? Don't be rude to the rest of the class and be moving around or trying to find the perfect light or doing all these things at a time. You want your students and yourself to be completely prepared. So you can give your students tips make sure that there's a light in front of you, not behind you, because light behind you creates glare. Light in front of you creates a really nice, full face. You can see, you don't have shadows. If as a teacher, if you want to go on Amazon and purchase a lighting kit, I think my lighting kit was $23, and you get 2 lights, and they have stands that are completely adjustable. So you want to make sure that not only are you prepared, but you can help your students be prepared as well, because you want to be able to see your students, right? And a lot of people don't know how to make Zoom lighting work for them. And again, there's Zoom settings, and we can go into that in another thing. But as a teacher, you want to set the tone immediately in an email prior to your students even showing up. Kelly and I actually had a conversation about this yesterday. You want to have your students prepared so that they are completely engaged. And here's the thing that you can do to create exclusivity. We always talk about inclusivity, right? Oh, make sure everybody feels included. Okay, well, there is a lot of power in exclusivity. When you say to people, hey, if you can't come and be completely engaged, no worries, consider taking a class at a different time when you can be more focused, right? So immediately you're letting people know, this is a serious class. I take this seriously, and I want everyone to have a really good experience. Now, for me, it doesn't matter if people move around, right? But if I'm teaching a class, and that's in these Wednesday calls, don't really care. It's a casual environment. But if I'm teaching a class and I want to make sure that you're understanding what I'm sharing, I don't want my students to be moving around. So I usually set up hey, and if I don't send it out in the email before, I say it the first day of class. It's hey, you know what? Here's what you can expect from my class, my teaching style, and this is what I expect of you as my student. And that is to be fully engaged, to have your lighting on, to have, your sound, all these different things, right? And I know I have a couple students here, and how I do my classes, and I'm really lucky because most of my students, 99% are fully engaged, because your students want to be there. They want to learn. But it's really important to set expectations, because there's always those outliers. There's always those people who come, but they're distracted. They're moving around. They're somebody comes and talks to them. And I've been guilty of this. Okay. This is no judgment. I have been guilty of this. If somebody comes in the room and starts to talk to you, remember, click off your video. It's not rude to go off camera. It's ruder to be on camera and be completely distracted because we can all see you, right? So we all know, oh, so Leah's not even really engaged in this material, and it's disrespectful to the speaker. So for all of you, whether you're a student or a teacher, just make sure that you're being really respectful to the person that's giving the time, or for you as a teacher, being respectful of your students, but having your students also have the guidelines so that they can respect you. So again, Wednesday calls, I do not care. Okay. I want you to come when you can. I want you to feel comfortable. Do whatever you want. But in a class situation, it's a completely different situation, right? Because I'm invested in you. I hope that you're invested in the material. And so we're doing that. So I just want to get that kind of out of the way. Like if you're going to do Zoom, you're going to do online, really make sure that you as a teacher are prepared. You have the right lighting, you have the right sound. Another tip that I'm going to give you is close all programs. So in order to ensure your internet is strong and clean, close out all programs on your computer because those programs drain energy and you never know when you get little glitches. And no worries, Wilma. So Wilma lives way out in Canada, way out in the boonies. So her connection isn't as strong. And I totally understand that. And Wilma's been in my class. And what I loved about what Wilma immediately told me, first day of class, told me and the other students, I don't have great internet, so I might come in and out. So she set clear expectations for her, right? And that was really respectful, not only of me, but of the other students, to let them know, hey, I might be popping in and out. It's not because I'm distracted. It's just because I don't have great internet where I live. And you can tell people, hey, that's completely understandable. And that's why we have a recording. Oh my gosh. Speaking of record, okay, I did hit record. Woo! Totally thought, because I have been known not to hit record, right? You're going to do it online, people. Make sure you hit record. It's such a thing. But anyway, so, as a student, if you're in a class, setting those expectations with your teacher and other students. And so Wilma says, very important, don't want to come off as being rude and disrespectful. Exactly. And then Diane said, my question would be, what really is the difference between the two ways? Unless there are animals in class, it would be the same. There's a lot. No, actually, huge difference, Diane. So let's say we go to, and Diane's talking about teaching in person and having animals there, or as teaching online and sending the students out to practice with the animals. Students will bullshit you. Excuse my language. They will bullshit you. Yeah, that happened. Oh, so good. And then you get in person with them and you're like, wait a second. You took my online class. You said you got it. And I'm watching you. You didn't get it. Because in person, you're out with care. You're out with the tigers. And if they're up close and they're doing this, because people do this, even though you're teaching them let animals lead, they're like this. You're like, oh, no. You got to put those hands down. You start to see what students are doing. Or the student, like in my bunny class, I told the students, don't, bunnies are prey animals. They get really frightened. Don't get right up on them. Turn to the side, let them know that you're not a threat. What do those people do in class? Boom, right in front of the bunnies. And the bunnies were like all huddled in the back. You can't see those things unless you're teaching in person.
So do all the in-person classes work with animals then? Is that what you're saying? Because I did not think that would be.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
I'm not in a place where there's a farm or a bunch of animals close by. I would just be teaching in a classroom.
Yeah, they're not getting the experience, especially for a weekend class. That really wouldn't be, you're just giving them theory. You're not really giving them that experience, and they have to have the experience.
So that would never work for me either then,
No.
being out on in person, because I'm not someplace where I'm going to like go out to the animals to teach them. I'm not in that type of environment.
Well, so for me, like Cookie's on the call, right? Or maybe Cookie had to bounce off. So Cookie was up in San Mateo, and I was, I think like an hour or two away from her. So I had to make arrangements to stay in a hotel and then teach my class. The bunny class was an hour away from my house. You know, you might have to travel to go
So
and
that's what everyone does when they teach
absolutely.
in person.
I'll let Kelly chime in.
Yeah, that's news to me. I didn't think that's how it had to be taught, because I
Yeah,
doubt very
absolutely.
much that's going to work for me either.
Yeah, absolutely. So Kelly, I don't know if you want to
Yeah,
say
I mean,
something.
I wouldn't take that position, Diane, because you never know. I mean, if when we're out talking about what we do, we can meet somebody that has a number of animals and that we can, I've had people host me at their houses where they have animals, or like Leah, travel near and far. And sometimes I have to stay in a hotel, or the person that invites me, I stay with them. So just keeping an open mind about how it can go. It doesn't have to be at a shelter. You can teach at, a local boarding for horses if you meet somebody and connect with them. So just being open and talking a lot about what we do, talking to anybody that has a number of animals is really, could open some doors for you. So, I wouldn't, right away think you couldn't do it. And and then also, if you're making a relationship with a shelter, sometimes you can teach, maybe in the classroom, and then have the opportunity to bring the students to the shelter to practice. And then you can watch what they're doing. So if you have a shelter fairly nearby.
Yeah.
So I've done
Yeah,
it
I guess
both,
the
where I'm like,
shelter, I could,
we're
yeah.
actually with the animals the whole time, or we do some classroom work and then we go to see the animals, usually within, a 20-minute drive or something.
Yeah, I guess that can be done. I really would have never thought that that had to be part of an in-person class.
Yeah, yeah. Miranda, go ahead.
Yeah, yesterday I finished my level 3. So I just, yay, with LSK, so happy. So I was just reading last week about classes, and what I was read in the manual was that when you have your own animals, you can teach that number of persons. So I have 2 dogs. I'm living on a small island, so I don't think I will have a lot of students here. So I was thinking I can just start in my house with my own 2 dogs, and then start with 2 people. And then when I have more experience, then I go to the sanctuary. And we have here animal sanctuary of dog sanctuary. We have animal shelter. We have a place where they have crocodiles, monkeys, donkeys. We have a donkey sanctuary. So I think there are a lot of opportunities, but I think, I don't know, Deanne, if you have your own animals, you can start in your own house with
Absolutely.
your own animals, and then
how
maybe one
Kathleen
of two
started.
I have
students
one
and
animal,
just,
one dog.
Yeah.
I guess.
yeah, but then
Yeah.
maybe you can have 2 students, and then they can both have the meditation with your dog. Just start small.
And
Yeah, I
think
didn't, what I didn't know is that that was actually had to be part of an offline in-person class. I did not know that.
yeah, I mean, we can talk more about that. I don't want to waste too
Yeah.
much time because we really want to talk about what we can do online, because that's, and
All right.
also in person. So we'll,
And that will be my next question when you have time, is if you could be more, I guess I want to know exactly what I can take from, I have all her many books. I have 5 books from Kathleen. What I could take from the books and make it a class, and
so
it's
we're going to
okay,
talk
because
about that.
everything is
So we're
copyrighted.
going to talk about that. So let's get
Okay,
to
good.
that. Okay. So,
Okay.
because I want to get to it. I have a lot to talk about. So
Okay, okay.
make sure we get through it. So I'm going to mute everybody here. So when, you need to decide, are you going to teach your class in person? Are you going to teach your class online? So again, I wanted to go over those kind of things. If you're going to teach it online, make sure that you have everybody on board. And thank you so much, Dawn. Dawn says, she also lives out far enough where she has limited internet. So again, going back to the online, just set expectations for your students and then make sure that everybody's on the same page, including you. One thing, make sure your Zoom is updated. That's a huge thing, because Zoom, what will happen is you go to click on it and it'll go, I need to update. And you're like, oh my God, I have class in 2 minutes. So just make sure you're completely set up. Give yourself plenty of time. So I am going to be teaching Heart to Heart with Horses. I'm going to be doing this in person. Okay, so this is a book. Maybe you want to do Reiki for dogs. Reiki for dogs would be a great one, like I said, to do online, because you can appeal to people who have dogs at home. And 9 times out of 10, when I'm teaching a class, the animals come in anyway. So, you know, the animals know, they sense this energy. I know Kelly can probably talk about this in Alice K too. It's just when you go to teach, the animals just come into the room. They sense it and they want to support this. Okay. So for horses, you're not going to have a horse in your living room. So this one, I would not necessarily do the same way, because I'm going to do some practices, but this might be a good informational class to teach online. So what I did was I got the book, right? So I know where I'm going to teach. I'm going to teach at Zeb's Wish in Sandy, Oregon. She has like 3 horses and she has donkeys and she has goats, right? So I'm going to be able to have practice. Now, this is where the in-person comes. The in-person experience comes in handy. I know how long it takes for people to go out to the animals, actually do the practice and come back. You got to give people like 5 minutes to go out. If it's a 20-minute practice, they have to get like 5 minutes to settle in, and then they'll do the practice. And then you got to give them like 5 minutes to come back. So it's about a half an hour for each practice. I want to have a minimum of 4 practices, but I really ideally want to have 6 practices in my class. This is going to be a 6-hour class. So I know right away when I start, I know where I'm going to teach. I know the length of my class. My class is going to be 6 hours, but your class doesn't have to be 6 hours. If you're going to do an online class, maybe 90 minutes. One thing you don't want to do, and this, Diane, goes back to what you're saying, you don't want to do an online class that lasts 6 to 7 hours, 2 days. Who wants to sit in a chair and listen and learn for 7 hours in one day? I don't want to do that. I will not do that. Even if there is a great seminar on, I will not sit in my chair that long. And even if you have breaks and you do all these different things, it's boring. And you can only absorb so much looking at a screen. You just start to glaze over. And so your students are going to start to get a little glazed over. So doing things in 90-minute increments is a good thing. That's why like our classes are about an hour and 15 and we send them off. I know I talk a lot, so mine go a little bit longer, like an hour and a half. But you know, just giving yourself that buffer of, hey, I need time for questions, right? There's going to be a lot of questions when you're teaching. And I need time for my instruction. And then if it's in person, I need time for the practice. But if it's online, it's just really give time for questions. If you do a little practice, you know, time for meditations, and then obviously time for you to share the information that you have to share. So I'm going to show you how you can use this book. And AI, you all know, if you've been following me, I love AI. Do not be afraid of AI. I'm here to tell you it is not scary at all. In fact, I was able to create my awesome outline with the times, with everything in 20 minutes. This would have taken me hours, because guess what? If you go, oh crap, I really need half an hour for the intro and for me to explain what Let Animals Lead is and what this method is and what you're going to learn. But I only buffered in 15 minutes for this. So now I'm looking at it and going, wait a minute, hey, AI, I need my intro to be 30 minutes and, you know, leave everything else the same. Boom, AI in 2 seconds spits out a new outline with all my times. And I look at it and go, hey. So now I have this really complete, wonderful outline. But before I can even have AI do that, and you can use ChatGPT, which is good, but I use 2. I use ChatGPT, you know, OpenAI, and I use Gemini, which is Google. Both OpenAI and Google Gemini are free. You don't have to invest any money. The reason I use 2 of them is sometimes Gemini is awesome, and sometimes it has a brain fart. Sometimes ChatGPT is awesome, but I just used it the other day, and it literally was spitting out nonsense. I'm like, are you okay? Are you sick today? Because this does not make sense. So you've got to, like, when you're using AI, know that one solution isn't for everything. You've got to kind of use both and get a balance. So I'm going to share my screen so you can see the outline that I've done. I think, where is it? Well, first of all, let me go to the book. So here is the book, and this is how I created my outline. You can look at this book and look at all the topics and go, okay, wait a second. So a foreword and an introduction, well, that's where I'm introducing myself. That's where the students are introducing themselves. And that would take, about 5 minutes, right? Maybe you want to open up with a meditation. That's how we usually open up our classes. If you've studied with any of us, with Alice Kay, with me, with Kelly, or with Beth, or with Judy, we usually open up with a meditation. I think Wilma does the same thing. So then you're going to want them to kind of experience it, right? And then you want to do a brief intro into, so for me, right, I'm not going to use the word Reiki, even though they're getting this book and it says Reiki all over it, that's fine. I'm going to tell them Reiki and meditation are interchangeable in this system. But in my promotion of my materials, I am not going to say Reiki because I want to, as I said earlier, I want to hit a wider audience, okay? But when they get into my class, I can easily explain this to them. And then that way I can answer questions. If they're like, oh, I have questions about hands-on and all this, now I can answer those. So then now I can take from this outline, from this appendix, chapters, whatever, I can say, okay, horses as teachers. It's really important for them to know that the horses are actually going to be helping them understand this material, right? And we could talk about that. We can give examples. We can talk about our state of mind. I'm going to cover that state of mind. But you're going to see from my outline, it's not going to look exactly like this. And there's a reason, because I've been teaching a long time. I know what I'm going to say. But for you, you might want to be just a little more specific. And then ways to meditate. I'm going to have my meditations, the meditations that I want to use in this book. There are different meditations. There's the healing pond meditation, which I love. You envision a pond, you envision the animals coming to drink from this pond. It's very passive. It's beautiful. So there's lots of meditations that I can use in this book that I'm going to incorporate in my outline. So just, use this as kind of your guide, and then know already what you want to take out of this book. Also, it's, the guidelines for sharing Reiki. I'm obviously going to include that. And then I'm going to include, a closing. So I took all of this and I kind of took what I wanted and I told AI, hey, I'm going to be teaching a 6-hour class. These are the things that I want to highlight in my class. So I let them know, boom, boom, boom. I want to have 6 practice sessions. I need a 5-minute buffer before and after the 20-minute sessions. I'm going to have a 30-minute break in the middle. And that's basically what I told AI. So then AI came back, and I hate it when it's like this bar is always in the way here. AI came back, and let me open this up. I just want to get the right, this one. Yeah. So AI came back. Oh, that's the steps. Boom. Here's my outline. AI came back with this. So here I've got 10 a.m. to 10:30, introduction, welcome, detailed, overview, why meditation with horses, explaining 10:30 to 11.
Not seeing that, sis.
Oh, you're not? Oh, gosh, darn
No.
it. Oh, you know why? Sorry. Let me stop sharing. Let me do my screen. Thanks so much, Kel. Let me do this. I have to share the whole thing. Sorry, I skip when you only do that certain screen, it won't let you do the others. So now you can see it. So here we are. And so I'm going to tweak these times because an hour, let's see, an hour, I want to do about 40 minutes and then 45 minutes and then send them out for a practice. So I'm still working on this because the class isn't until May, but this is a rough outline and now I can start tweaking it. And one thing about AI is you just keep your conversation in that same chain. Don't, even if it's 5 days later, go back to that specific question you asked, go to the end of the chain and then say, hey, I like what you did, but around, let's see, 10:45, I want to send them out for a practice. So here is the practice. Well, actually, they did it at 11. Here's the practice session. So 11 to 11:30, that's the first practice. And then we've got a 10-minute break. Then we've got state of mind and the importance. And then we've got another practice session. And then we've got a lunch break. And then we've got grounding. And then we've got a practice session. And then we've got horses as teachers. And then we've got another practice session. And then we've got a break. And then we've got meditation as a flexible. Then we've got another practice session. And then we have a wrapping up. So I had 5 practice sessions. So it was a nice compromise. I couldn't have 6 because there's not enough time, but I have 5, which is better than my 4. And now here's the wrap up. I have 20 minutes to wrap up. And it's fine if you go a few minutes after the 4 o'clock. Some people have a hard stop, and you can start at the beginning of your class and say, hey, does anyone have a hard stop at 4 o'clock? That way your students can say, yeah, I have to leave right at 4. I know sometimes like at CARE, when we're out there teaching, people have a hard stop on the last day because they have to go catch a flight, or they have to leave, or they have an appointment, whatever that is. So just make sure that you kind of know beforehand, does anyone have to leave right at 4 o'clock? Because you want to make sure you give them their certificate and wrap everything up neatly for them, give them all the important things, and then they can leave. And if people have some last minute questions, you can ask those. So here, again, use AI to create a really wonderful outline that you can then go back and tweak. AI isn't going to give you a perfect thing. I mean, I fed AI enough information that AI came back with this, but AI is like having a really smart assistant. So AI isn't going to do this and do it for you. You have to feed it some information. You're going to have to tweak it. But this is an amazing first start. And again, like I'm going to go back and go, yeah, I think 10:45 is when I want to do my first session. So instead of me now manually going through and trying to like time everything, AI will do that for me in literally 2 seconds. And now I have a new outline. I've saved myself time. I know exactly what I'm doing, and I can focus on what's important, which is the teaching, and not trying to figure out what I'm going to do, what I'm going to say, what time, and all that. I can really focus on the content, right? Instead of this outline. You're going to want to give, if you're going to go teach at a zoo or a sanctuary, or wherever you're going to teach, you're going to want to give them an outline of your class. 1, it gets them excited. 2, it lets them know exactly what you're going to be teaching. And you can set expectations as far as, hey, we're going to need to go out with the animals. So when I would teach at the Humane Society of Silicon Valley, it was hard. It was such a busy shelter that it was hard to be out in the main areas with the students. So what we would do is we would go in the back where the animals who are either being held, or they're being quarantined, or they're just like, for whatever reasons, they're in the back. We would go and work with them. And if you're doing a brand new meditation type thing, you might only want to have 10 to 15 minute practice sessions, because people who aren't used to meditating have a hard time, and that's understandable. Just know that if you're only doing 10 minutes of meditation, at first, they're probably not going to get, in the first practice session, they're not going to really get very much out of the animal. The second practice session, they're going to get a little more. The third practice session, they're going to get a lot more, because the energy builds on itself. And again, this is why we teach in person, because you can see that, you can understand deeply. I could, like when I was first teaching, you don't know what you don't know until you don't know it. And I was all, oh, wow, this is really cool. The energy is actually building on itself. So like, for instance, we were in with guinea pigs, a big old wall of guinea pigs. And the first 10 minutes with the level 1 students, the guinea pigs were still kind of running around doing their thing. And I told them, don't worry, the animals are going to start calming down. We're excited. We don't know what we're doing when we first go in there for that first practice session. We also need to calm down, right? And that's a great time to talk about energy. And then you go back for the second one and you start to notice, they slowed down a little bit. They aren't running as fast. They aren't, as active as they were during the first session. Now the third session, oh, wow. Some of them are actually laying down and closing their eyes. The fourth session, boom, they're out. They know exactly what to expect. And the students kind of know what to expect, and they know what to look for. So now everybody is in that energy. But if you're teaching online, you can't really understand that and experience that. So that's why these really in-person classes that are not even like a level 1. You don't even have to do a level 1. You can do like what I'm doing with the horses. Just do one day, 6 hours, or do a half a day, do 3 hours, but give them that experience. And then you can observe it too. And then for you as a teacher, you can go, oh yeah, I saw this happen. Okay, now I know what to tell students when they come to me and say, hey, I went to this horse and the horse like didn't act interested at all. Oh, well, guess what? Horses, they aren't like dogs and cats. They might not show the same type of acceptance. But if you can tell them the subtle things to look for, like with horses, they might be eating when you're doing your session, right? So when I go to Zeb's, I know that there's going to be times during my class when the horses are going to be eating. But the horses, that doesn't mean they're not going to accept the energy and they're not going to share it with me. I'll tell the students the subtle signs to look for: slowing down, stopping when they're eating, hanging their head, yawning, chewing slowly, just, kind of gazing out. Those are all signs of acceptance by horses. But I won't know that unless I'm teaching in person and getting that experience. And I taught for years and years and years in person, obviously, but I also taught online through, it wasn't really online, it was through TalkShoe. I did the Animal Reiki for Reiki practitioners class. I started in 2009. So I had a lot of experience in person that I could then translate to share with my students when we were doing it, on the calls. So you really want that in-person experience. So go out and get it, whether it's teaching a class or just going out and working with a lot of different animals. You have to have that experience in order for you to really help support your students and help them learn. So I'm going to stop sharing this, and I want to just make sure that really quickly, let me just look at my notes really fast and make sure that we're covering everything that I wanted to. Just how long your class is going to be, you're outlining, you're doing that. And then planning for the interactive environment that we talked about. But here's some additional tips. Network with other people, maybe people that are in the animal industry, like, Diane, you say you're not by any animals, but going to like a pet food store or a farm supply store or something, and seeing, like if they have networking events that you could maybe go to, or maybe they know people who have rescues, right? So make sure you're networking with people, and obviously stay up to date, like we're talking about. Make sure you know your material, make sure you're excited and passionate about your material, right? Your students will get excited if you're excited. I'm super excited about this equine class because I love horses and I love to teach Reiki with horses. I used to be on the board at Pregnant Mare Rescue, and I used to have my classes out there, and horses are the most amazing teachers. I always tell everyone, if you want to learn Reiki, go to a horse. They are so patient with you. They love to teach and they love to hold space. So for me, I'm super excited about this. I haven't been around horses for a while, so I'm super. So let's make sure we don't have any questions here. And Carolyn, I didn't say hello to you, so I just want to say a really quick hello to you and to Dawn. So let's kind of open this up. Yeah, Wilma, I wish you had more horse farms closed. Yeah, just kind of like, this kind of goes back to an energy thing, and what we put out, it gets mirrored back to us. So have you ever like thought about purchasing something like a car, or like, let's say, if you want to buy a new car, it's a good one to use. And let's say you want to buy a Prius, and then all of a sudden you start seeing Priuses all the time, right? Because your mind is geared, you want that, you've put it out to the universe. I want a Prius. So now the universe is responding to that, and you're actually noticing, even though the Priuses were always there before, but now you've put it out there. Oh, hey, I want a Prius. And so now boom, 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 all you see are Priuses. The same thing. I want to teach at a horse sanctuary. I want to teach with horses. So then now you're putting that out there. And so you might find opportunities where you can talk to people like, Wilma, you're in a great position because you have a business, you have a dog grooming business. You can start talking to people about, how much you love horses, and you would love the opportunity to kind of share what you do in your grooming services with horses. And then you might be surprised. Someone might say, hey, I have a friend who has horses. I'm sure they would let you go out there. It's non-intrusive what we do. We just stand outside the fence. You're just meditating. It's very passive. Most people are going to be incredibly open to that. So put it out there what you want. Don't be afraid to tell the universe, hey, this is what I want. Because when we say that'll never happen, it doesn't happen. Okay, the only caveat to this, and I will tell you people this, and I will never, as long as I live, understand how this happens. Kathleen Prasad is the biggest, that'll never happen, yet it happens for her. And I'm always like, how does this even work? You're the most Nelly about things, and yet it happens. Like I remember when we first were going to be able to go to care, and she got offered this. She goes, it'll never happen. I can't leave. I have a young daughter. It'll never happen. It'll never happen. 4 months later, we're headed to care. She's funny, but for most of us, that doesn't work. If we say that'll never happen, it actually never happens, especially for me. So I'm here to encourage you. Be positive. Know that nothing is impossible. Was it Audrey Hepburn? Impossible means I'm possible, right? So remember that everything you want is possible. It might not be the exact way you see it. We don't ever want to be, just like in our practice, we don't want to be attached to a certain outcome, but we can put it out to the universe. I want to teach with horses. And I will say, I have been really wanting to be with horses. And I get a call from Zebs out of the blue. Hey, we want to have Animal Reiki here again. We lost our Animal Reiki teacher, which was one of our Sarah teachers. She moved to Florida, and she moved, I think, right around COVID. So Zebs hasn't had Animal Reiki for a while. And they're like, could you please do an equine class? Could you please do a level 1 class? And I was like, I get to be with horses again. So putting that out there, it may not happen tomorrow or in the next month, but it will happen for you. And so, yeah. And Wilma says, I know thoughts are things. Exactly. And what we put out is what we get back, right? Mirrored. And then, Mary Lynn said, Kelly, that's my horse story I shared with you. Okay. So let's open it up. Let's talk about this, and let me know if you have questions about teaching or about using the books to get out there. I hope that, I know this is really fast. This isn't a class on teaching, but it's just kind of an overview of how you can get out there and share what you know and really get your name out there. You could also, so what I was going to say, I talked about it a little bit at the beginning, you can teach for free. So the caveat there is you don't want to undersell your services, right? You want to value what you're putting out there. But if you're new and you don't have a ton of experience, and you really want input, then you can get a small group of people. Like you can go to let's say you want to do horses. We'll stay on horses since that's what we're talking about. And maybe there's a horse meetup group, go on like meetup.com or Eventbrite or whatever, find out where the horse people are going. And then maybe you can go to an association meeting and go, oh, hey, I'd love to talk to you about this, or I'd like to do a little intro class into what I do. I'll do it for free. I will train whoever for free. All I ask in exchange is testimonials if you like it, and feedback if you didn't, or feedback on what you could do. And then always have a survey. You can use Google Forms. Google Forms is the easiest thing to use, and you get your responses immediately. You don't have to wait. As soon as they go in and they fill it out, boom, it comes to you. So it's a great way to get instant feedback. But I just helped Care with a class that they did. And, we sent an electronic survey, and it was really great getting those responses back immediately. So we knew right away, oh, okay, this is what we have to improve, or this is what they want more of, because it might not be what you need to improve. It might be, oh, I love the class, but I really want more horse interaction, or I really want more instruction, or I really want more meditation. So you can offer your class for free, but make sure there's an exchange of some type, right? And you don't want to always offer your classes for free. You've paid a lot of money, like Diane, she's gone through level 1, 2, and 3, paid a lot of money to get to where she is, a lot of practice. So your instruction is incredibly valuable, and people will pay you. So don't undersell yourself. And it's hard, when you're in shelters and you're working with people who are struggling, you're like, oh, shoot, nobody will ever be able to afford my classes. That's not true. You can always give, like Taya Strom, she has a really wonderful talk about, setting boundaries and knowing your worth. And she talks about, you can have a scholarship position in every one of your classes. You can do payment plans. You can do sliding scale, whatever that is. But it's Kathleen and I both have had experience, and I think Kelly has too, of offering a class for free, and the people don't value it. People won't show up. People don't take the class seriously. There's a lot of things that go into offering a class for free. But if there's an understanding at the beginning, I'm going to give this to you for free, I really need your input and I need you to fill out the survey, then they pay attention because you're asking for their advice. People love to have their advice taken, right? So when you're asking people for their input, for their help, for their advice, they're more willing to give it. So make sure that there is an exchange. So I know I said, you know how I love to talk, I have to stop. I was just talking to my business mentor and we're both that way. It was like yesterday, he's like, oh my gosh, I've got to stop talking so much to my coaching clients. And I'm all, I know we both have this sickness. So anyway, I'm going to open it up. Yes, Google My Business. No. So in Gmail, I can show you guys really quickly on how to do the forms. Let me do my thing and let me get to, I think it's this one. Okay, yeah. So when you're in your Gmail, there's these little dots and you go to that and it gives you all the different Google applications. So Forms is way down here because Forms isn't popular, right? Not very many people use Docs, they use Sheets, Slides, blah, blah, blah. Forms, so you click on Forms. And now you can create your own form, or you can, let's do the one from Care. I created this one for Care. You can see we have 8 responses. So we can go to the responses, see who responded, the names of the people, what they said about the class that Kristen, this was a class that Kristen did. So, oops, I pulled myself out of that. And when you're going to create it, so you just save it. And then if you want to share it, you hit send and there's a link and you say copy link. You copy the link. It's super, super simple. But let's go back to, let me see, go back to forms. And if you start a form, here's the title and here's your first question. So that you can do multiple choice, you can do check boxes, you can do drop down, you can do all these different, you can do a paragraph if you're answering, tell me, or like, I think one of the things we do for short answers is give me one or a couple words on how you found the class, or what the class was to you. Awesome, extraordinary, whatever those things are. You can multiple choice. Was the length long enough? Yes or no? If the length was too long or too short, or give us more details about the length, why you chose your answer. I don't know. My brain isn't really in forms right now, so I'm not doing this correctly, but just play around with this. There's lots of tutorials about it. I'm happy to talk about it if you guys want to on another call, but it's really super simple to use. And so I'm going to stop sharing my screen because I see we have a chat. And then let's see here. Can you take the pages from the books as is and make it a small pamphlet, or would that? You can take anything from a book, but general copyright rules always apply. You always give credit at the bottom. Copyright, Kathleen Prasad, Kathleen Prasad, Heart to Heart with Horses, the book, right? You want to say exactly where you got this information, because if you don't, then people misunderstand and think you wrote it and you didn't write it. So you always want to make sure that you're giving credit where credit is due. And because if you were to copy the pages, yes, it says Kathleen Prasad, but it doesn't say where it came from. There's no copyright. So you need to really make sure that the copyright, whatever that copyright is in the book, and you'll find it, and then make sure that you're typing it and putting it on the bottom of whatever you copy out of her book. But that's something that you never want to ever share information that you got from any source, whether it's Kathleen's books or on a website or anything, and not give credit. And that's something that as you become more prolific, you're going to want people to give you credit for what you're saying, right?
Right.
So OpenAI and Gemini are the two AI sites. And then Alice K says, Leah, are you requiring your horse class students to purchase Kathleen's book? No, I will be providing the book as part of that's going to be their manual. So that will be included in the price of the class. And I'm not sure what the price point for the class will be because it's only a 6-hour class. They'll get this this book I think is $15 max. So, and I'm giving Zebs 50%. I usually only give 25 to 30% of the proceeds back to the shelter. But for Zebs, I'm giving them 50% because I have to travel to Sandy, Oregon, but I'm going to be staying with my partner in a place we own. So it's, it's not going to cost me anything to go up there. So I'm going to give them a certificate. Yes, Liza, I'm going to create a certificate that is probably meditating with horses or beginning meditation with horses or something. I haven't really thought about the name of the course, but yes, people like certificates. You will be certified to, in energy work with horses, or you'll be certified in meditation with horses. That's something people want. If you're going to do a beginning Animal Reiki class, certification in beginners Animal Reiki class, right? You always want to give some sort of completion certificate because people like that. They don't always need it, but it makes them feel better when they have it. It's like, oh yeah, I completed this course, and they have it. It's a course. A lot of people, that's their thing. They want to collect all these things and say, hey, look, I studied this and I did this at this time. And it's also a reminder for them, oh, that's when I took that class, right? So that's just another. So introduction to meditating with horses. Yeah, you can do that. And, now you've completed the introduction to meditating with horses. You have 6 hours of instruction in that, right? So that's another thing you can do. But yeah, this is just such an easy way to get yourself out there. It's not a huge commitment. And I'm here to tell you, you're going to have an easier time getting students when you do something short and quick and give them kind of a base. And then they can come back and go, wow, I really like that. How can I go further, right? Or at the end of this class, I'm going to say, hey, if you want to learn more, you can study. I don't teach level 1 Animal Reiki. I have a private class, a one-on-one class that I'm doing, but I don't normally teach level 1. So I usually send students to other level 1 teachers, whether it's in person, if they want to learn it in person, or they want to learn it online. But you need to make sure that if you teach a level 1 Animal Reiki, that you have that class set up so that at the end of this class, you can say to them, hey, and if you'd like to learn more, you want to continue your journey, I have a level 1 coming up where we go a lot further into this, and you'll get a lot more experience and you'll come away knowing a lot more, right? So introduction class would be this. Obviously this is a little bit longer. It's 6 hours, but that's what Zeb's Wish wanted. They wanted something longer with more practice so that people could really understand it and that we could charge a little bit more. I think we're still only going to charge maybe $100, $125. So it's not going to be an expensive class, whereas the level 1 is $400, but they get a manual that's $50 and it's 2 days and it's much more intensive. And you as a teacher are giving a whole lot more. So, when you're pricing your classes, it's something kind of to think about. What's the energy exchange there? How much are you giving? If you're giving a lot, you want to charge a little bit more because it is you and you're sharing your energy, right? And your teachings and your knowledge, and you're really helping to help support those students and mentor them in growing. So just like any other business class you would take, the price is going to be a little bit more when you're getting more one-on-one instruction and you're going deeper into the material, because your teacher has to have a really deep knowledge of that material in order to help your students go deeper. So again, that goes back to, teaching online versus in person. In person is really a good way to get started. And then, do little classes online. You can get your experience online just doing these small ones. But I really love Kathleen's books. She's such a prolific writer. It cracks me up when I read her books because I'm like, she is amazing in what she says. I mean, you won't even hear her say this in person sometimes. I'm just like, wow, she's really prolific. So get her books because they help you. And I don't know, Kelly, if you want to say something about this as well.
No, I love that idea of using the the more specialized books for workshops and stuff. And I think that's also, like you said, Leah, a really great way to create interest in our classes, and also remembering that we're in those workshops like you're doing, we're donating back, so that's helpful all around.
Right. And it's a good way to.
Material is amazing. And regardless of whether you're using a Reiki for horses or the manual that we get in level 1, 2, and 3, there's so much great material for us to work with.
Absolutely. I mean, you could do a whole class on the precepts. You could do a whole class on all is well mantra and all the different ways that all is well really helps, because the beauty of what we teach, the beauty of what we do, the beauty of our skill set is that we know people come to us to help animals, but what do they get out of it? They actually get more inner peace, more joy, less stress. Their lives actually change. I mean, I am a huge, huge supporter of this practice. I've been doing this for over 16 years because I saw my entire life change. Yes, I came to Kathleen because I wanted to help animals and I didn't know how to help them without being like a vet tech or something, right? But then I found this beautiful way. And through this way, I actually grew as a person and changed and became more grounded, more balanced, more, happier. I can handle stress better. There's all these things that you get out of it from a personal journey. And so the benefits are you are able to help any animal in any situation, but you also grow as a person and expand. And Wilma says, the all is well mantra changed everything within me. Yeah. I mean, what we teach is so incredibly powerful. And it applies to anyone and everyone as long as they love animals. Like, I couldn't teach Trump this method because Trump doesn't like animals. I mean, he just doesn't. He was the first president, I think, to not have animals in the White House. But somebody like Obama, I could probably teach it to, or even, President Bush, he likes animals. He had animals, So it's just really, it doesn't matter what anyone's personal views are on life. If they love animals, you can teach this and you can share these beautiful gifts that help them grow. So I know we're coming to an end. There's so much to cover, right? And it's just like, oh my God, we could talk about this for hours. But I hope that this was a good kind of just first start. And I hope it inspires you to get out and teach and share this incredible modality that we all know. And well, I know that some of you are my students and some of you are, in Sarah. So those of you who aren't, I hope you consider taking one of our classes from either me or from Kelly or from Alice K or from Judy or from Beth, and Miranda, you're going to be teaching soon. So there's all kinds of, and Miranda's in Aruba. So if you were going to Aruba, this is a perfect destination class, right? I mean, I love destination classes. And that's a great, or like, Monica's on the calls and she's in Croatia. You can go volunteer at her shelter, and I'm sure her shelter might even be open to a teacher coming. I mean, I would love to go to Croatia. I was invited to an animal, it wasn't really a sanctuary, it's an animal, lack of a better word, an animal attraction place in Arizona. And I invited Kelly to come co-teach with me. And we taught at this wild animal place where they had like little tours and stuff, but it was an amazing experience. It was all the way in Arizona. We had to travel. It was a lot of travel. We had to fly into Vegas and we had to drive like 3 hours. I mean, it was a trek, but it was so worth it because the animals had such a profound experience. And the coolest thing ever was watching coyotes who never slow down, who are like this, actually not only slow down, but lay down and take that. Now, it didn't happen on the first treat session with them. It didn't necessarily happen on the second session, but by the third, the coyotes were coming up and just standing there and staring at us. I mean, that was just so powerful, right, Kelly? That was just amazing.
Yeah, that was really cool. I'm actually wearing my Keepers of the Wild sweatshirt today. But
Oh.
we also got a great vet, exotic animal vet to join Sarah, who worked there. So we
Right.
were really fortunate to have Sally really fall in love with what we do and come on board with Sarah.
Yeah.
You never know the door you're going to open, really.
It's really true. You have to be open to all possibilities. And yeah, it was pretty expensive for us to go and do that, but the rewards that we got from that were huge. And in fact, one of the most profound experiences was with this baboon named Billy. And when we did the tour with Sally and the manager, Patrick, they ended the tour. Well, first of all, during the tour, all the animals were like coming forward and they're like, oh, that's weird. You know, the animals usually don't do that. And so then they went parked in the back by the office and they said, okay, there's a baboon back here. He's going to scream. He hates it when strangers are next to the staff. So just know he's going to scream. He's going to throw rocks. Just don't get close to him. Stay back by the car. So we came and we parked and Billy kind of was like, but he wasn't freaking out. And they're like, that's weird. We hadn't even taught the class yet. But our energy and our meditation with the animals, just with the whole property, right? You know, we're coming, just letting the whole property know this is what we're about. So the second day, we didn't work with Billy at all the first day. We weren't even around him. And the second day, we went back behind the monkeys and Billy was back there. And we all kind of forgot that Billy was crazy, including the staff that we were training. So we're out there, we're working, you know, we're doing this beautiful meditation. The monkeys are all loving it. And we go to leave and there's Billy. And Billy's right there at the fence, not screaming. He's just sitting down like this. And April goes, oh, I'll show you guys a cool thing. He'll floss his teeth with my hair. So she took out a piece of hair and I got down and I was filming him. And I was, you know, a couple feet away. I wasn't trying to be in there. But he didn't scream. He didn't freak out. He was just flossing his teeth. It was really sweet. And then as we're walking away, April said, so weird. He usually hates strangers and he throws things. And he went like, and this is how animals understand everything, people. He went, oh yeah. And he picked up some rocks and went, nah. Like really just, oh yeah, I'm supposed to throw rocks. But you know, you never know how your energy, how your teachings are going to affect not only the people, but the animals. And wouldn't you say, Kelly, that was just such a
Yeah, that's amazing. And that's what then the staff were like, oh man, I'm so glad we're learning this. You know, we had that tiger too that
Bodhi.
Yeah, he was just really, it was so beautiful to watch him finally relax.
Absolutely. I mean, and it was amazing because they said he'd been there for years. He'd never relaxed fully. One of the workers that was taking the class said, I've never seen Bodhi's forehead relaxed. And this is years. And Bodhi had gone through a very traumatic experience before we had gotten there. And so he was extra stressed. And then just in there with all of us, you know, as we're just sharing, he came all the way to the front. His tongue was out. He was completely relaxed. This is the beauty of what we do. And again, Diane, so here's why we do it in person, right? You've got to see these amazing interactions with the animals because it helps you have confidence as a teacher. You start to go, yeah, this is why I do what I do. This is why that energy is so important to cultivate within myself and share. Because I mean, if I would have been teaching online, they could have told me about that. But even still, you have to help support your students with the energy. So Alice Kay says, my favorite location to teach in person, my favorite locations to teach in person are local parks where we can engage with diverse species of animals. Yeah, the birds, the squirrels, you know, whatever is out there. If you go to the Japanese tea gardens, right, the koi fish will come up and like kind of group around you. So, you know, think outside the box. There's many different ways. And I love that. Thank you for that, Alice K. And then can we use the certificates? Diane says, can we use the certificates you have, or do we need to make our own? Well, you're going to make your own class. So you're not teaching out of the level 1, 2, and 3. So I would make my own. I would, you know, your business name. Also, I know you get certificates through the Let Animals Lead. They're kind of Kathleen certificates. They say Animal Reiki source. So I would make my own anyway. If you have your own business, you want to make your own certificates for your level 1, level 2, and level 3 class. And I'm sure Alice K has her own certificates for her level 1, level 2, level 3. So, you know, you're going to make those your own. But yeah, so I know we're kind of past, we usually do a meditation. I think since it's so late, I'm going to forgo that this time. But know that the way that we get better as teachers is to be in our practice. So always practice. Every morning you wake up, practice the breathing, practice all is well, practice just the precepts. The precepts are a meditation, people. You don't have to be like this for, 20 minutes. You can say the precepts 3 times, right? And then at night, before you go to bed, always making sure you're giving back, you're doing the meditation. Miranda says, I was thinking, I live on a small island, so not many people, but we have a lot of tourists from the US and they love dogs. So I see opportunities. Yeah, exactly. And in fact, you can work with some of the tourists operations, Miranda, to, like have a little packet, say, these are the different opportunities I have to share. You might not want to do a 2 full day class. You might want to do just a short excursion, right? We're going to go to the shelter and many of you are going to feel sad, but here's what we're going to do. And we're going to try and come back. And it would be a great experience, or having, the wildlife or whatever that is, but working with the tourists, because the tourist departments probably have a connection to like a wild animal sanctuary or something that you might not have a connection to. So again, build those relationships, talk to people, share about what you do, and always make a good first impression, right? Be kind, be loving. Even if people tell you no, that's fine, because that impression stays. And so if someone says no to you, they might be like later on, hear about an opportunity and go, oh, you know what? I was talking to Miranda, and even though I couldn't help her, this person can. So I'm going to reach out to her and say, hey, Miranda, this happened. So always be really kind and courteous to everyone, because you never know how that can come around and help you, right? So thank you all so much for today. Sorry, I feel so bad, but I'm so excited to share what I share, and I'm so excited to do what I do. And I'm so excited for all of you to get out there and share this, because as you can see, it's such an incredible modality, right, Kelly? I mean, like, Kelly and I have taught quite a few times together. Yeah, of course, Marilyn, I'm so glad that you're here. And I'm so glad that you got something out of this. Oh, thank you, Carolyn. Yeah, we're so glad you're here. And yeah, and so if you're a Sarah member, I'm going to post my just like the things you need to do, things you need to consider in the community supporters. So you don't even have to be a practitioner or teacher member of Sarah. We're going to start cultivating a community supporter resources. And so on there, you can go and get the steps to creating a class using a book. You can have access to our, reaching out to a shelter. You can have access to our, things that make a perfect in-person and distant session. So we're going to start putting things in there for our community supporters. So I'm going to stop giving everything away for free here, but we're going to talk about it. And then you can join for $50, Sarah, community supporter. And in that, you're going to get access to all these different wonderful things that I make, because I love to make things. And then that way it'll help you, right? And then you can actually share those as long as you keep that copyright on there. And thank you so much, Diane, for asking that question, because that's a really important question. Making sure that you keep that copyright, that you always give people credit where credit is due, because I can guarantee you you are going to want that. When you say things in class, when you give
definitely. No, definitely I know. But what do you do? Just at the end, you have to do it, or on every page?
every page, every single
Every page.
anytime you're taking an excerpt from something, if you look at our materials, we have a copyright on every single page. Because otherwise people, they actually won't know where it came from. If you don't have a copyright on every page, they might go, oh, this first page, but the second page doesn't have it. So does that mean she created this?
Okay.
Or does it mean, so do you have
Thank
a
you.
link to the classes that I teach? Yes, Carolyn, you can go on to the Shelter Animal Reiki Association and you look at classes and then upcoming classes, and you'll see a link to my classes. You'll see a link to, I think Kelly has some classes coming up. Any classes that are coming up, we have that. I think Alice Kay has a website. You know, if you search our names, our classes come up too. So, but yes, but thank you so much for asking that, Carolyn. I would love to see you in a class, especially if you have any Reiki experience. I'm doing the Animal Reiki for Reiki practitioner class at the end of March. I'm so excited. I love teaching that class because it really is life-changing. And I know Angela was here and she said, well, Wilma took it. Liza's taking it. Judy's doing the self-study right now. So it's a really great way, if you do have some Reiki experience, to then bring animals into your practice. So yeah, thank you so much for asking that, Carolyn. Appreciate that. So everyone, thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for being here. And, you know, listen to me again as I go through this and give you the tips. Thank you, Eddie. Thank you so much. See, I love how Eddie did this. He had his camera off, but then he popped on to say goodbye. That's something you can do. And it's actually, thank you, Eddie, because it shows that Eddie was engaged. He heard, I was saying, thank you, Wilma. But, you know, and Carolyn, I know you can't, so no worries here. It's, if you can, great. And if not, it's always nice to see in the chat too. So when you go to a class or when you teach, encourage people to use the chat. Give people that, you know, the basics for it. And then thank you so much, Eddie. I really appreciate you popping on. Thank you so much, Wilma. I appreciate that. So everyone, thank you. And next week, we're going to talk about loving kindness meditation and how the loving kindness meditation is actually goes so perfectly with what we teach. So if you're looking for a different kind of really fun, inclusive meditation that pretty much everyone has heard of, right? The metta, it's called metta, or it's called loving kindness meditation. And we're going to talk about that. And that's something that you might want to teach. You could do a whole class on the loving kindness meditation. And in our world right now, we kind of need the loving kindness meditation, but you're going to teach people not only how to show loving kindness to themselves and to others, but to people that they have a difficult time with. So this will be a really powerful one for all of us to use and practice. So that's what we're going to be talking about next week. So thank you so much, everyone. Love you all. And I will see you next week. Thank you, Liza. So good to have you here. Bye, everyone. Thank you so much for coming.
Bye. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thanks, Leah.
Thank you,
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, Leah. Have a great week, everybody.
Yeah, you too. Bye.